Onwards, companions, for part 44 of 5,000 Years of War. I'm the Archivist, and I'll now lead you through the first years of Philip II of Macedon's conquest of Greece, among many other war events throughout the world at that time. It is now 357 BC. Recently on the throne of Macedon, Philip II takes Amphipolis in Thrace, a Athenian possession controlling the silver and gold mines of Mount Pangaeon. This is all in this region. Philip II doubtlessly takes advantage of a certain social war raging for Athens, and about which we'll talk in just a minute. For now, noting this beautiful Thracian rider of the treasure of Lutnitsa, we'll note that Philip has put some rams to good use against the walls of Amphipolis, and that the Macedonian phalanx differs from others. Arranged on 8 to 16 ranks, it is more maneuverable as it gives more space to each soldier, protected by a linothorax instead of a cuirass, with a smaller shield held against the shoulder and the forearm. This smaller shield allows for carrying a longer spear, the sarissa, held two-handed as it can reach 7 meters long. This Macedonian phalanx usually advances right side first in an oblique formation. Philip II had first hired hoplite mercenaries before forming his own, probably equipped at his expense thanks to his new sources of income. The Macedonian phalanx, able to fight on many ranks simultaneously thanks to the length of the sarissa, will keep on evolving in the upcoming years. Macedonian cavalrymen, in addition to the Machaira sword, also used the sarissa, a 4 to 5 meter long version, but maybe only after the Battle of Cheronae of 338 BC. This aristocratic cavalry will go from 600 horses, including 300 for Philip's personal guard, to over 3,000. Okay, now to Athens' calamities. The social war opposes the city of Attica to its former allies, the war being also called War of the Allies. Kos, Chios, Byzantium, and also Rhodes, irritated by the tribute asked by Athens and supported by the Persian satrap of Caria, Mausoleus, give a naval battle during the summer of Chios and defeat Athens' fleet. But the allies now actually fall under Mausoleus' influence. So the way into Greece, with its major players weakened, seems opened for Philip II of Macedon. Between this year and the next, he comes down to Thessalia, central region of Greece, to soften the eagerness of the co-tyrants of Pherae. Thebe, wife of late Alexander, whom she helped assassinate, and her brother Tisiphonus, at the head of mercenaries menacing Larissa, city which called Philip for aid. While this time in Italy, taking of Privernum, city of Latium, by the Romans. And we can move on to 356 BC, when Philip II of Macedon takes and destroys Potidea in Chalcidice, so once again, giving its territory over to Olenth. He also takes Pydna on the Thermae Gulf, Crenides, colony of Thassos, and the cities of Abdera and Maronea on the coast of Thrace. This is a Thracian helmet here, by the way. While this time westward in Sicily, the tyrant of Syracuse, Dionysus the Younger, is overthrown by his uncle Dion, helped by Sparta. Dion had previously been exiled by Dionysus, and he'll be assassinated in 353, Dionysus getting back to power in 346. Back to Greece, where the Amphictyoni starts the Third Sacred War by wanting, as Sacred Council, and encouraged by Thebes to find the Phocians accused of cultivating sacred lands of Apollo in the plain of Crisa. The Locrians, Phocians led by Philomelos, react by taking Delphi over here by force and then using the treasury of the sanctuary to pay for mercenaries. They are also backed by Sparta, as the Lacedaemonians are also menaced of a fine by the Amphictyoni for occupying Thebes in 382. What an entanglement, right? Then, during the summer, Macedonian troops under General Parmenion do an incursion in Illyria, actually quelling its menace after a battle of importance. King Grabos II is kicked off his throne, his alliance with Athens, part of Thrace and Paeonia, not helping him at all. And talking about Athens, this one suffers another naval defeat in the social war at Embata between Chios and the lands of Anatolia during the autumn. Under the threat of a Persian intervention in support of its enemies, Athens will sign a peace with them the following year. To conclude, this year, we note in the conflict started in 358 mainly between Rome and Tarquinia, the execution in Tarquinia of more than 300 Roman prisoners made earlier in some important victory, upon which the Romans answer by executing 300 Etruscan prisoners in Rome. Falerii and maybe the Caerians are also involved against Rome in this conflict. 355. The king of the Cimmerian Bosporus, Leucon I, who logistically supported Athens during the social war, seizes Theodosia on the southern coast of nowadays Crimea. Later, before 348 and the end of his reign, it's Heraclea Pontica that Leucon is going to take on the northern coast of Anatolia. And in Greece, the third sacred war is starting well for the Phocians that expand their zone of control from the Gulf of Corinth in the south to parts of Thessalia north. Moving on to 344 BC, Methone, on the coast of Macedon but allied with Athens, is in the hands of Philip II of Macedon, injured at the head during the siege. Now he advances in Thessalia, where he'll find seasoned men to reinforce his cavalry, important element to cover, along with the light infantry, the flanks of the phalanx, and also to pursue and destroy the retreating enemy. Slightly south of this, Philomelos, leader of the Phocians occupying Delphi, with more mercenaries hired for his service, is however beaten by the Boeotians at Neon, just northeast of Mount Parnassus, and he ends his own life. His successor, Onomarchus, keeps on fighting though, and pays more troops with the money of the sanctuary. He also allies with Pheres' co-tyrants Lycophron II and Peitholaus. Fightings ensue in Thessalia, the Thessalian League supporting the Amphictyoni against the Phocians. More on this, with interesting and foreseeable developments in 2 minutes. Now, in the Persian vast empire, the satrap of Ionia, or Hellespontine Phrygia, to be accurate, Artabazus, revolted, is tamed. Artaxerxes II Ocos's troops beat his mercenary leaders Mentor and Memnon of Rhodes, 2 brothers commanding to Thebans, among others. Mentor flees to Egypt, where he puts himself in Pharaoh Nectanebos II's service. The others flee to Macedon. And far away to the east now, back from his previous defeats, the Chinese warring state of Wei in the central plain expands eastward and menaces Zhao's capital, Handan. King Hui of Wei's army is led by General Pang Juan. And we'll stay here to start 353, when the 80,000 soldiers of Wei are forced to abandon their attack against Zhao. The Qi called for help by General Cheng of Zhao, directly attacking Wei's capital, Dalian, as it has practically been left undefended. It is General Tianji, advised by his strategist Sun Bi, who's leading this offensive. When the Weis of General Pang Juan come running to save their capital, he's ready to receive them. And at the Battle of Giling, near Dalian, he defeats them, partly because of a good usage of thousands of crossbowmen. Pang Juan is captured, his losses are dramatic. Wei will need time to recover from this, it seems. But in Europe, there is one that decidedly doesn't need time. It's Rome. It tames Tibur, hostile since 361, and reassures its grasp on its Ladin's neighbors. And concerning the conflict with the Etruscans, Caere is pushed to make a separate peace. This crater, right here, is Etruscan, and it of course shows combatants using Greek-like equipment. In Asia Minor now, at the death of Mausoleus of Caria, over here, his sister and spouse Artemisia II succeeds to him. Before her passing away in 351, seeing the Rhodians, supported by the Athenian Demosthenes, revolt and attack Halicarnassus on the coast, she repelled them through a lightning raid against their loosely established siege and will invade their island to put an end to their uprising. And in Greece, Philip II of Macedon of course intervenes in the sacred war in favor of the Thessalians and the Amphictyoni. He's been called by Thebes, actually, which we'll regret it one day, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, Philip advances first against Pherae, repulsing a force of 7,000 Phocians led by Phalios, brother of Onomarchos, on the way. Pherae resisting, he dismounts his siege engines during the night to transfer them against the neighboring harbor of Pagasae under the cover of darkness. Pagasae is easily taken. But when Onomarchos comes against him personally, Philip II suffers two setbacks and has to go back to Macedon to lick his wounds during the winter. And at last, this year or the next, Archidamos III of Sparta and his son Aegis, among others, with the 3,000 mercenaries supplied by the decidedly powerful and rich Phocians, attack Megalopolis in western Arcadia and campaign against Argos. The Lacedaemonians simultaneously support diverse pretensions of Elis on Trifalia in western Peloponnese, of Phleius and on some Arcadians, and of Athens on Oropos, town of Attica, all that to try and keep some influence and prestige in Greece. And in the year 352 BC, Philip II comes back and takes his revenge on the Phocians at the Battle of the Crocus Field in Thessalia, assisted by the Thessalians, increasing his army to 20,000 men, including 3,000 mounted. This victory extends his zone of control down to the Thermopylae, where the Phocians, without Onomarchus killed at the Crocus Field, are now positioned to block his advance, reinforced by the Athenian Demosthenes, Lacedaemonians, and Achaeans from northern Peloponnese. Demosthenes has brought 5,000 footmen, including lots of light infantry like peltasts and 400 cavalrymen. The Spartans, 1,000 soldiers, and the Achaeans, 2,000. This deters Philip II from attacking, but the Athenians will soon drop this support of the Phocians. The king of Macedon goes back northward, gets the surrendering at last of Thrace, city of Lycophron II, and then, having become the Tagus, leader of the Thessalian League, he turns his gaze towards Thrace, submitting the fortress of Heriontakos, southwest of Byzantium. Before moving on to 351, I forgot to tell you that after his victory at the Crocus Field, Philip had 3,000 prisoners thrown into the sea and the body of Onomarchos crucified. Well, 351 BC. The war between Rome and the Etruscans, chiefly Tarquinia, started in 358, ends on a 40-year truce as the second city was seeing its lands ravaged by its Latin enemy. While this time, in Asia Minor, we see another failed revolt, of a satrap, Ariobarzanos II of Chios, city on the Bithynian coast, while the Achaemenid king Artaxerxes III launches an attack on Egypt. But after a year of fightings, he's beaten by the Greek mercenaries of Pharaoh Nectanebo II and must withdraw, his troops moreover hit by a plague. And then, in Phoenicia, the king of the coastal city of Sidon, Tapnit II, takes his turn at revolting against Artaxerxes III, taking advantage of his weakness, and the Persian king having on top of that asked troops of him to prepare another attack against Egypt. The insurrection spreads to Cyprus, there led by Pnitagoras, nephew of Evagoras II of Salamis. Pnitagoras outs his pro-Persian uncle and makes himself king of Salamis the following year. Say the year 350. The Gauls launch a raid towards Rome, but the Romans prevail in at least a duel of champions. Let's also note that the Romans have recently met the mountain people of the Samnites beyond the lands of the Equi and have signed a peace with them. On their side, the Etruscans lose Felsina, Bologna, to the Celts, who've been pressuring them for 50 years. Egypt now. Pharaoh Nectanebo II sends Mentor of Rhodes with 4,000 mercenaries to support the insurrection of Tapnit II of Sidon in Phoenicia. The satraps sent by Artaxerxes III, Mazaeos and Belisis, are defeated by the Rhodian. The fightings continue in the following years between the Sidonites helped by Mentor's mercenaries and the Persians, the uprising even spreading to Judea and Samaria, it seems. Last event of this year, defeat at the Battle of Taminae of the tyrant of Eretria, Plutarchus, or of that of Chalkis, Callias, against an Athenian force commanded by Phocion, in Euboea, of course. Athens steps in the island, for the local tyrants have been approached by Philip II of Macedon. In 349, this one is operating in Chalcidice again, setting the siege before Olenth, leader of the Chalcidian League. While this time, Orchomenes of Boeotia is destroyed a second time by the Thebans, 15 years after the first. It had recently been rebuilt by the Phocians. Then, there is a Persian landing in revolted Cyprus, 40 ships carrying 8,000 mercenaries led by satrap Idrios of Caria for King Artaxerxes III. The ships themselves are commanded by an Athenian, Phocion, and Evagoras II is with him. But the siege of Salamis, held by Pnitagoras, fails, and Artaxerxes in the end consents in confirming Pnitagoras as the master of the city and the island. In compensation, the Achaemenid king gives Sidon, remember this city on the coast, to Evagoras II. But this one will be expelled from the city by its inhabitants in 346, and soon after put to death when returning to Cyprus. Poor lad. And saying goodbye to this Thracian rider of the treasure of Lukovit, in 348, Thrace and Chalcidice are almost entirely between the hands of Philip II, who's advancing beyond the Thermopylae, having taken the advantage over the Phocians. Athens gets to war against him to protect one of its allies, Olynthus, before this allied with Philip but now besieged by him in Chalcidice. Athens sends peltasts supported by cavalry, but to no avail. Olynthus, after more than a year of siege and probably fightings up until its very streets, numerous sling projectiles have been found in them or in buildings, falls into the hands of Philip II, the Chalcidian League being destroyed. The Macedonians also take, near Athens, the small island of Salamis, really tiny, not visible on the map. 347, a quick year, with only Chersobleptes I, Odrysian king of Thrace, last surviving son of Cotys I, submitting to Philip II of Macedon, of course. Chersobleptes will fail to regain his independence in the upcoming years and will die in 341 BC. 346 for us now, ending this video with some major events. Satricum is retaken by the Romans. It had been seized by the Ladins of Praenesta and the Volsci. In Crete, this very famous island, a war starts between Knossos and Lyktos, with Archidamos III of Sparta soon intervening in favor of the Lyctians. And in the Persian Empire, Artaxerxes III acts personally against the rebellion of Sidon in Phoenicia against King Tapnit II. The Sidonites and the mercenary mentor of Rhodes previously sent to them by Pharaoh Nectanebo II are beaten by the dozens of thousands of soldiers coming against them. Tapnit II is put to death, Mentor is captured, and passes to Artaxerxes III's service. As we had mentioned that Artaxerxes passed Sidon's guard over to Evagoras II, another version of the story tells that Tapnit II would have in the end submitted to Artaxerxes, the Sidonites expelling him for that, and then Evagoras II for bad governance. And finally, in Greece, the Third Sacred War ends when Philip II of Macedon beats the mercenaries employed by the Phocians in Thessalia before sacking the lands of the Locrians in Phocis. Phalaikos, master of Phocis at last, out of funds and reduced to small war, negotiates a cessation of hostilities with the Macedonians after sending away the Athenians and Lacedaemonians guarding the Thermopylae against Philip. He retreats in Peloponnese with 1,000 mercenaries, as Archidamos III of Sparta was coming to reinforce him with another 1,000 of hoplites. The same year, Philip II has 3,000 Phocians that had surrendered executed, and makes a peace that of Philocrates with Athens, the negotiations being made between the Macedonian general Antipatros and the Athenian Demosthenes. An alliance between the two sides will follow, against the interests of the Phocians and King of Thrace, Chersobleptes I, trying to regain some influence. That's all for today. Philip II has made himself master of half of Greece. We'll see the end of that conquest in the next video with the Battle of Cheronae and his son, the famous Alexander, in action. Thanks for your likes and comments to support the channel. I'll see you all soon. Have a great day.